Hey guys, so today for my walk I wanted to discuss the 7 baby steps. Let's go walking. So all of my adult life, at one point or another, I've been in debt. And it's something I've always struggled to get out of. And whenever I did get out of it, and I did, at least 3 times, I'd always seem to get right back in debt again. And that made me question debt. And I kept asking myself, why is it that I kept getting in debt? What is it that I'm doing wrong? Why is it that I can't effectively stay out of debt once I've paid it off? And in 2019, I decided to go on a quest on the internet to find out why I am in debt and what it takes to get out of it finally and forever. And in May 2019, I discovered a man that changed my life, and that man is Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey came up with a series of reasons why people got in debt, and he explained it in a way that I understood. And more importantly, he came up with the 7 baby steps, the surefire way to get out of debt forever. So I decided to study them. He was somebody who grew up in Tennessee, had a good family upbringing, and he got into real estate. And he was doing very well financially, became a millionaire in his early 20s. Well done him, done a fantastic job. And what happened was, in order to expand the real estate business, for whatever reason, he decided to take out a loan with a bank. So exactly what happened next, I'm not quite sure, but I know that the banking regulations within the United States changed. And because of that, and because of what was going on at the bank that was his lender, his loan lender, they basically recalled their money back. So Dave was in a tricky situation. He didn't have the money to pay them back, so he had to start selling off assets. They recalled his money, and in the end, unfortunately for him, he had to do something that most of us would absolutely hate, and he had to declare bankruptcy. Once they'd taken all of his assets, he had a wife and a newborn baby to take care of, and he then decided to seek advice at his local church group as they had debt counselling services, and effectively he spent the next portion of his life learning about debt, learning about why people get in debt and what to do to get out of it. And effectively what he's done is he's parlayed everything he's learned into a 7-step program to get for everyone to be able to get out of debt, which he calls the 7 baby steps. And you know, he learned some home truths. He learned that the reason that he got into debt, the same as the reason I got into debt, was to do with this, not what was in his wallet. It wasn't so much the incomings and outgoings that was the problem, it was him. It was his attitude to debt, where, like most adults, within certainly the United Kingdom and definitely the United States, they had almost a love affair with debt. He started to examine why people get into debt and how much debt they have. And he realised that debt could be something that is destructive. It could destroy marriages, destroy love, destroy your life. And he vowed never to get into debt again and to get out of debt as soon as possible and teach what he's learned to other people. So, the 7 baby steps then. Before we get into that, there are a few simple things that I guess for me personally on my journey I had to agree to or listen to when he was talking. You know, and the first was, how desperate are you to get out of debt and what will you do to achieve it? Ask yourself the question, you know, which is what I did. The second thing I had to do was say, right, from now on, I will never get into debt again. I had to make an agreement with myself that I was going to cut up all of my credit cards, that I was going to never have a loan again, that I was going to have to do something extremely difficult, and that was, I was going to have to write down all of my debts. I was going to have to see it all in black and white, written down in the list. I needed to see exactly what I owed to whom and to write all of those debts down. And it was difficult because as somebody who's been in debt, I found it extremely difficult to confront it, difficult to acknowledge it. Oh, well, I would acknowledge it in passing, but I would never really have a full breakdown or rundown because it used to depress me. As silly as it sounds, I didn't like seeing money going out of my account. So I used to use a credit card because in my head I'd segregate it and put it over here and I wouldn't look at it. So I could charge what I wanted, my account would stay the same or even go up slightly, and it took almost a bit of the guilt away. It's something that I've always had a problem with, and that's why I think it's always taken me so long to get out of debt, or I generally I don't pay attention to it, or it's like I don't want to confront it. I don't want to see it in black and white, because if I see it, it becomes real, and it becomes something I have to deal with. So the other thing that I had to look at, and I think this is something that he suggests, before you even look at the baby steps, you have to budget. And that's the other thing I had to look at, where I'm okay in terms of I'd budgeted properly, I suppose. What I'd always done is, I'd always knew how much I was going to get paid per month, and I always knew what my bills were going out, not including credit, obviously. So what I would always do is, I would always set up direct debits or standing orders, or I guess, I don't know what the equivalent is in the United States. Direct transfer, is that what it's called? I'm not sure. So what happens is, let's say you take out a bill with a company, you sign a direct debit thing, which it automatically takes the money out of your account at a certain date. And that's what I did, because that was the easiest thing to do. And I set the dates at the beginning of the month, because I get paid at the end of the month. So if I was getting paid at the end of November, for example, I get paid on the last working day of the month. So on this month, for example, I'll get paid on November 30th, which is a Tuesday. All of the bills that come out of my account will then come out on December 2nd, good couple of days, just in case there's an issue with the payment, just in case there's an issue with work, which has happened. I leave adequate padding from when I get paid to when my bills come out, just in case. And that was all okay. That part was fine. I always made sure that I did that, and I always lived on less than I made, which is, again, something that is handy. Because and it sounds simple, but it's something I never thought of until I listened to Dave Ramsey and his podcasts and YouTube videos and whatever else. It's live on less than you make, and it is that simple. But then it was the credit that was the problem. I have a problem with something called delayed gratification. It means, like, when I want to buy something, I want it there and then. I'm literally the guy waiting for the mailman. I'm the guy who order something from Amazon, and I'm checking that tracking, that tracking report. I'm waiting for that delivery to come, and it's not the first time, for example, I will order almost an inferior product, or not something I totally want, just because I want it here that day. And it's something that I struggle with, and as a result of that, that's how I got into debt, because I wanted to buy things that I didn't have the money for. And in order to do that, or to facilitate it, in the modern world, we have access to so many things, don't we? We have access to credit cards. We have access to instant finance that we can apply for online. In some cases, 0%. We can buy now, pay later. All of these things that effectively allow us to shop more, to give in almost. And it's almost like you decouple it, like I said, and put it away. Oh, I've got to worry about that next year or 2 years' time. I don't worry about that. But eventually it all comes to get you, doesn't it? And in the end, you do make a concerted effort to start paying some of it back. But then, you give up, or you want to buy something else, or something breaks or whatever. That's the problem with living in arrears. You're always playing catch up. When you live in debt, like I have, you're always playing catch up. You never quite get ahead. And unfortunately, I didn't want to address the issue. I didn't want to do the hard work it would take. But then Dave Ramsey came along and educated me. Because one of the things that's good about about the 7 baby steps, it doesn't just tell you how to get out of debt. It tells you what to do afterwards to not only stay out of debt, but it tells you how to become successful with your money, which is the goal of many of us, isn't it? It's not just about getting out of debt. He turned around and said, if you follow the 7 baby steps, I won't just get you out of debt, I'll make you a millionaire. And anyone can do it. And I was skeptical. I was like, what do you mean anyone can do it? I don't earn that much money through my job. There's no way I can be a millionaire. And he showed numerous examples of people who earn 15, 20,000 a year and they'd become millionaires. And I was just floored. So I was like, why is no one else cottoning onto this? Why is no one else doing this? it was like some best kept secret that was being revealed. And I thought to myself, you know, in the UK, we have financial gurus like Martin Lewis, but he says nothing about all this kind of stuff. You know, he's giving you a website where he's teaching you how to make 0.3% on a savings thing. Dave Ramsey's telling you how to get out of debt forever and be a millionaire on a normal income. Sign me up, I thought. Sign me up. So anyway, what are the 7 baby steps then? Let's get into it. So, step number 1, starter emergency fund. Yeah, and you can call it anything. Emergency fund, contingency fund, holy crap, something's gone wrong, what do I do fund? It could be anything, you call it. And he recommends saving $1,000, £1,000, 1,000 rubles, whatever the equivalent is in your currency denomination. Save 1,000, and it needs to be instantly available to you, i.e. hopefully cash or instantly available. It needs to be something you can draw on quickly in an emergency. And an emergency is not, I want to buy a new TV set. Unless, of course, it's the household TV set, and you've only got one, and there are loads of screaming kids around. Yeah, you might want to call that an emergency, I don't know. So what constitutes as an emergency? Things like your car breaking down, you know, you've got a flat tyre on the way to work, or the gas boiler's gone in your house and you have no heating in the middle of winter, or your fridge has died, you need to repair something. That's what your emergency fund is for. It's not a spending fund. And it's designed as only £1,000, so you don't get comfortable. You don't want to get too comfortable. You want to be paying off your debts as quickly as possible. If you give yourself huge breathing room, you might want to then decide to pay them slower, and that's not the aim of the 7 baby steps. It's important to remember the 7 baby steps should be done sequentially, one after the other, until you get to a certain stage, which I'll tell you about in a minute. But also, the 7 baby steps are designed for the mind as well as the financial. They are put in place in the way that they are for specific reasons that don't always appear obvious. I've gone through it and thought, this doesn't make sense, this doesn't make sense, that doesn't make sense. Surely you should do it this way, and I questioned it. I tried it another way and it never worked. And I always come back to, there's sometimes things that you don't always, or I didn't always figure out. And then when I came back to it and I thought, do the baby steps properly in the order that they've been set, in the way that they've been taught, and you'll get better results. Not only should the starter emergency fund shouldn't make you feel too comfortable, but it's also shouldn't take you too long to attain. It shouldn't take you too long to save. You know, ideally 2-3 months maybe. A quick hit to the brain that tells you this journey's, we've already achieved a victory, it's already been quick, wow, we've done well, we're on to baby step 2 already. That's what it's designed for. It's not designed to be there to be used for anything other than an emergency, and it's not designed to be something that has enough money to make you feel comfortable. You've got to still sweat a little, but you've got to know you've got a padding there in case of an emergency. Once and only when you've completed it, you move on to baby step 2. Baby step 2 is to pay all of your debts off, not including the house mortgage, from smallest to largest using the debt snowball method. Now, this section, baby step 2, the hardest section. It's the section I'm currently in at the moment. It's the section that takes the most grit, the most determination, the most will. And the debt snowball method, there's 2 main methods that people generally use to get out of debt. The debt snowball method and the debt avalanche method. Now, the debt avalanche method is where you list all of your debts from largest to smallest, and you pay off the largest one first. Because that method argues if you pay off the largest debt, that gives you the highest amount of money to then put towards the rest of your debts to make them pay even quicker. Because it's an avalanche that will technically go from top to bottom. It'll make things go quicker. That way, they say, when further along you would go, which is some people prefer that method. It doesn't, when I say largest to smallest, it doesn't necessarily mean the largest financial. It could be the largest amount of interest per month. So for example, one might be only $1,000, for example, but you're getting charged $250 a month in interest, which could be the highest bill you have in terms of all your debt, and you might want to clear that off the quickest. That's what you do with the debt avalanche. But the debt avalanche fails to take into account the behavioural side, fails to take into account why you got in debt in the first place, like I did. The debt avalanche doesn't work for me because it requires you to put a lot of willpower in the beginning and not see much result for a long time, possibly. And that's not a good thing. Which is why the debt snowball method is the method of choice. That's the method that Dave Ramsey says. That's the method for baby step 2. Smallest to largest. And it's not necessarily about monthly payments in that one, it's about your total payments. For example, if you get that £1,000 debt gone, it's yet another victory, another morale boost, another behavioural adjustment. And it's all about behaviour at the end of the day. Cutting up those credit cards and shouting no to debt is a behaviour that you need to keep going and work on. Eventually it becomes a habit, a positive habit, so that eventually when you are out of debt, you'll never have a credit card again, you never reach for a credit card again, you're out of debt always. By doing the debt snowball method, you know, it's a habit you build. It's something that you're seeing quick successes, small but quick successes. That's why it's the preferred method of choice. And you pay off everything except the mortgage to the house. And that will come later. But typically, in terms of debt, and let's concentrate on the United States, because that's where Dave Ramsey's from, a typical average person in the United States has around, they said about 7,000 or 8,000 worth of credit card consumer debt. You know, that's where they bought a TV or they bought something else from the shops or whatever, the store. Could be anything. But that's not including car loans on top and possible mortgage, which could be a lot. But those things will take a lot longer to pay off, won't they? But baby step 2 will include the car. I'm sorry, yes it does. It includes the car loan as well. And a lot of UK people may grumble at that because some people don't always see that as a debt. There are some that see it as an investment. No, it's not an investment. An investment is when you put money into something and it increases in value. A car does not increase in value. It decreases and depreciates in value. It's not an investment. Necessity for doing your job, maybe, yes, definitely. It's not an investment. And it is a debt. You know, if you have to get a car loan or a car finance in order to get it, it's a debt. You've got to pay it off. You've got to include it. And I know it's horrible because I've had to include it. And it makes my debts go way higher. And I hate it. Now, baby step 2 typically takes, they reckon, about 2 years. Now, I'm here to tell you, sometimes it can take longer, unfortunately. In my case, I decided to start paying off my debt personally in 2019, and I've done well. And I've done bad too. I've had setbacks. But essentially, since 2019, apologise for the dog barking, we are out in nature. Since 2019, I've paid back over 25,000 in debt. Now, I don't earn as much as some guys you listen to on the Dave Ramsey show. And yes, it is sometimes off-putting, I have to say. You know, you hear these people and first of all, they're married in couples, which automatically means their debt is being shared and their burden is being shared. And that must be amazing. Shout out to all the single people out there. You know, it's a lot harder for us. We have no one to share our burden with. We have to take it all on our own. Yes, okay, we got into debt on our own, so the punishment is ours alone to bear. But it's difficult, isn't it? So much easier to do things, for example, like losing weight or getting fit when you're in a group of people who are like-minded. A lot harder when you're doing it on your own. And, you know, you see all these couples and, you know, they're earning $100,000, $200,000 a year, you know, and they're in 100,000 worth of debt. And as Dave Ramsey plainly says to them, so if you lived on 50% of what you made, you could pay it off in a year. And they're like, no way. And he's like, of course, it's simple maths, isn't it? You know, you earn 200,000, you're in 100,000 worth of debt. Well, that's it, 1 year, live to your means. Live to 50% of your means. Difficult, but you'll do it. So the average is 2 years, they say. I can tell you it's taken me longer. We're now in November 2021. I started in November 2019, 25,000 paid back, and I'm 2 years in, and I still have another 27,000 to pay off. Yeah, I know, because I'm including the car in it. You know, my car currently has 20,000 left to pay off. and I'm at approximately 7,000 to 7,500 in credit card debt. Therefore, that's how much is left for me. Now, I've made a goal with myself, and my goal was, and I wrote it down, a proper goal, I said, next year, 2022 is the year. That's the year that I'm going to pay off all my debts. And I will spend more on this baby step 2 than any other, purely because I think it's the most important. I really do. I think it's the most important of all of them, because it builds character. It's, you know, going through the mud sometimes, but you've got to do it. And I thought, no, I'm going to, you know, just knuckle down in 2022. By the end of 2022, I want to be out of debt. And that's what I'm going to try and do. Now, what he suggests getting a second job. He suggests, you know, cutting back to what you can afford. You know, don't go out, and he suggests not going out on holiday, not going out to eat, no more takeaways, you know, no more takeout, or whatever the term is. No more takeaways or takeout, you know, nothing. You know, if you can sell stuff that you bought, you know, sell it all back, sell your car. Personally, I don't do that. To me, it's almost like a reminder, you know. It's like, I've got all this debt for these ill-gotten gains. Well, I'm sure going to keep them now, because if I'm going through all of this, you know, to pay off debts, I still want something to enjoy them by. I'm not going to give them back for, you know, selling them at 30% of their original value to punish myself and sit in a room. That's my personal choice. It might mean I'm less character building because of it, but I don't know. But that's my choice, you know. But to me, after this debt is paid off, I can never get back in debt again. I've made that deal with myself, and I know it means that I can't live with credit cards. I just can't do it. So I'm not going to. And that leads us in perfectly to baby step 3. Baby step 3, once you've paid off all of your debts, not including your mortgage, once you've paid off all of your debts, you then have a fully funded emergency fund. Now's the time when you save a bit more on that £1,000 you've got saved. So the guide for the fully funded emergency fund is to list all of your outgoings, all of your bills, and come up with a figure. Times that figure by 3 to 6, and that's your goal. You have to effectively be able to pay, let's say something happens with work and you're either fired, made redundant, sacked, whatever. You have to be able to pay all of your bills for 3 to 6 months. And that's the full emergency fund. And again, it's not to be invested. It's not to be put anywhere you can't get it. It has to be liquid, it has to be cash. You have to be able to draw it out at a moment's notice. And that's really for things going wrong, like your gas boiler going, maybe your car engine blows up. That's what it's there for. It could be a tyre, you know, it could be anything. Whatever emergency it is, that fully funded emergency fund will save you, and it will enable you not to have credit cards. It might mean something silly like you've gone on vacation, on holiday, you've got to the airport and you want to hire a car, and they ask you for that important card swipe of a credit card as a collateral, if you like. You say, no, I'm sorry, I can't do that, I don't have a credit card. Then often they'll say, right, we'll swipe your debit card and we'll take 500 out of your account, and then once you've returned the car with no damage, we'll refund the money back. If you have an emergency fund, it's no problem, sir. No problem. Step 3 then, fully funded emergency fund. Now, this is the point in the baby steps where we stop. This is the point where we congratulate ourselves. We need to have a respite slightly. And I don't mean go out spending, I mean just have a respite slightly and pat yourself on the back. Well done. You've achieved it. You got yourself out of debt. You're going to be out of debt forever. No more credit cards for you. No more debt, no more nothing. Now's the point where you stop doing the baby steps sequentially. Now, the next 3 baby steps, you've got to do it at the same time. Same time, next 3. So, baby steps 4, 5, and 6. Baby step 4, invest 15% of your gross household income. Baby step 5 is to save for your kids' college fund. Now, baby step 5 isn't necessarily applicable to certain people, possibly. Not applicable to me, I don't have kids. Therefore, why would I save for a kids' college fund? That is not too clear on. Perhaps I need to research that one a bit more, because I'm not sure what else you're supposed to do in the interim or the event that you don't have children. Maybe a house. Maybe a house, yeah. Save up for a house, for example. Maybe you want to live on your own and you want to have a house that you, rather than rent, a house of your own. We can use it for that. You know, you could use it for a big purchase you want to make, perhaps. I don't know. But, you know, whatever you decide to do, don't get in debt. Then, baby step 6, pay off your mortgage early. So, as I said, if I may, baby step 5 is fairly self-explanatory. If you don't have kids, it doesn't really apply to me, doesn't really apply perhaps to you. So let's concentrate on the other 2. Baby steps 4 and 6. Baby step 4 perhaps is the one that's most important to me, and that's investing. And yes, that does mean investing in the stock market. You'll see numerous videos on YouTube about people investing in the stock market and how they've made lots of money. There are several people I've seen who have become millionaires on YouTube, for example, talking about it regularly, where they've invested. Now, again, it's very specific why 15% was mentioned, because it has to be a considerable amount, but it can't be so much that it's going to impact your daily life in terms of bills. You know, it can't stop you from paying the bills. You can't invest so much that then you struggle to live. You still have to. Investing for the future is important, but you still have to live in the here and now. And Dave says it himself. You still got to go on vacations. You still need that recharge and that break. You still got to, you still want to see your friends and socialise. You still got to buy new cars. You still got to buy furniture for your house. You still got to do all these things. So you can't just, don't go too crazy investing. And it's exciting to invest. There are numerous videos on investing. So various people. Definitely go check out other YouTubers. They've got whole things on investing. If you want, in the UK, for example, there are all sorts of people like Pension Craft or Mama Fur. In the US, there are loads. Investing with Rose. Dave Ramsey himself, the Money Guy. Great guys over at the Money Guy show. Brian Preston and Bo Hansen, brilliant guys. Definitely, I would say, something to check out once you've got to this stage of the baby steps. Almost like a further reading, in addition to Dave Ramsey. And again, they love Dave Ramsey. They're also based in Tennessee. They talk a lot about investing and dollar bills. What does he say? He says, Bo always talks about your army of dollar bills. Because at this point you start to question, well, it's essentially a savings pot. But the reason why we say invest over savings is savings doesn't build you any money, doesn't build wealth. Build wealth, something you hear about all the time on YouTube. It's almost like, what would you say if I told you that rather than your savings account or rather than your bank account, you can put money in an account and that money will grow exponentially with compound interest over time? That's the sort of thing we're talking about. So when we say investing, it's making your money work for you, making your army of dollar bills or your army of pounds work for you. So when we say investing, we do not mean gambling. I do not mean gambling. But there are various ways you can invest. You can, for example, a lot of people, the classic term in the UK we always hear is bricks and mortar. That's something that a lot of UK people will do. Here, for example, they will go out and they'll buy property and they will rent it. And they'll get that rental income, pay off the mortgage of the second property, for example. Would I say to do that? No. Personally, I wouldn't. And a lot of people that are really convinced it's the right thing to do, it's not something I would do personally. It's not something I know a lot about, not something I would do. And to me, there's also the fact that how are you going to have to do it? You're going to have to get in debt again. And it's kind of like, well, we said not to get in debt. And not only that, if you haven't done baby step 6, which is to pay off your own mortgage for your own house and your own property, why would you risk that by getting another house that you may end up not being able to pay for? So no, I wouldn't advise, that's me personally, I wouldn't advise that. Maybe other people do, I don't know. Now I'm talking about a normal investment. And in the UK, obviously the USA is slightly different, but in the UK, there are various methods that they discuss, to do this. And the Money Guy show I would go to for this one, possibly. But Dave Ramsey's advice is also great. The first thing they say is, well, get a workplace pension. First thing to do is to get a workplace pension on baby step 4. A lot of pensions in the workspace will offer what they call an employer match, where you put in a certain amount and your employer will match it, which is the first thing you should do. Why? Because it's free money. Who doesn't like free money? You know, if you put in 5% per year and your company put in 5% per year, yes please, that's free money. That's the first thing. Not only that, what the pension people do effectively, usually, is they'll buy shares in the stock market and invest it, which is exactly the same as what I'm saying to do is invest anyway, but do it on your own. Do your pension first. If you have any money free, well then you can invest on your own. And there are various ways you can do it. For example, you can get an ISA, an individual savings account in the UK. In America, you can get, for example, a Roth IRA. It's all the same thing technically, it's a tax-free wrapper at the end of the day. It means you're putting savings away for your old age, so that hopefully you won't be a burden on the government and the state when you're older and you're retired, and the government, in kind, give you compensation by saying you don't have to pay any tax on that. And when I say tax, of course, we're talking capital gains tax. In other words, if you make profit on your investments, you know, that profit that you get, you have to pay tax on. You don't pay tax on the money you put in because it's your money. You've paid income tax on it already. You don't pay income tax on it twice. Unless, of course, well, no, you don't. So yeah, you can do that. You can invest. And here in the UK, we have something called a stocks and shares ISA. A stocks and shares ISA will allow you to put in £20,000 a year and have no tax to pay on it. And you can invest it wherever you choose. There are various platforms for that. Go online and look. You know, there's bigger named ones like Fidelity, Schwab in the US. We get Fidelity here, yeah, in the UK. Your Vanguard is a prime example. These are companies where you can effectively put money into them and they buy shares or buy funds. But we'll talk about that in a second. You know, there are other ones like eToro. My personal own one, the one that I use, or my favourite, is Trading 212. You can either buy shares yourself or you can buy funds. Dave Ramsey recommends mutual funds and he gives what his recommendations are, which, you know, if you want to check it out, you know, but he'll give you a broad guide, but he won't tell you which funds to pick. But he tells you the idea of what kind of, effectively you need growth, and aggressive growth, or I forget what he uses the term, you know. And people say, well, what if I lose my money? And if that's the case, then you want to play it more cautious, and I do. I want to play it more cautious. Some people don't play it more cautious, some people buy stocks. But at the end of the day, and this is my own personal advice, I'm not a financial advisor, you know. This is not financial advice that you have to follow, because obviously if you know, everyone is different and will give you different advice based on their own experience. Personally, I probably won't buy shares. Too risky for me. I don't like risk too much. But at the same time, you've got to have a slight risk, otherwise you're not going to have any growth. So for me, I always refer to Jack Bogle on this one. Buy the index rather than buying an individual stock. Buy an index fund, for example. That's what I'll be doing. Some people will go mutual funds, mutual funds possibly as well. You know, I know enough to know that I don't know enough. I don't know enough about companies, bottom lines. I'm not Warren Buffett. I don't have a whole, you know, lifetime of ability to research and pick winners, you know, in the mid-cap market or whatever. That's not me. So why buy one share when you can buy the whole stock market, buy the whole S&P 500? That's my advice. And is it a risk buying the stock market? Some say yes. But when you look at the overall trend over 25 years, I think it was, and I don't know the specifics, I'd have to research it, but for every 10 years, you'll get 3 years where it dips or doesn't make too much profit, or maybe makes less, maybe makes a loss. But the other 7 years is all growth, baby. Some years it's 20, 30% growth. Isn't that far better than putting it in some sort of national savings account in the UK where you're not even getting 1%? Ridiculous. And it's by that compounding interest. It really is the eighth wonder of the world? Compound interest. Albert Einstein was right. It's fantastic. You know, by putting in a regular amount every month, you know, you could be a millionaire by the time you retire. It's fantastic. absolutely brilliant. And I definitely would love to do more deep dive videos into that. There are so many people out there doing it now. It's wonderful. But anyway, invest. Make sure you don't invest too much. Don't ever put anything at risk that you own. Don't ever put your house at risk. Don't ever put, your debt. Don't ever get back into debt again. It's not gambling. It's a long-term thing. If you don't plan on saving long-term for more than 10 years, don't even bother investing. Investing's long-term. When I'm going to invest, when I've paid off my debts, and only when I've paid off my debts, remember, I've got to get past baby step 3, and I'm not there yet. Don't do it too soon. Don't jump in too soon. Pay off your debts first. It's a long road, but you'll be so thankful. Your life will be changed so much. Don't jump it. I'll be investing, and I'll be investing for a minimum of 22 years until I retire, minimum. It's not a quick game. But at the same time, you don't need necessarily to go. You can go to financial advisors if you want help. You don't need to. Go to Vanguard or Schwab or Fidelity or, whomever. They're trusted providers. They have a whole array of index funds. Like they do a retirement fund, which is where an average balanced retirement fund, where at the beginning it takes more risk when you're younger, but as you move to a retirement, it progressively shifts from, say, stocks to bonds to make it safer. You don't get as much profit, but you've got hardly any chance of losing your money. It's great. And it's like there's so many choices out there for you to evaluate, do some research on it, spend a while doing it. In fact, if you're like me, you get bored in the debt phase, in baby step 2, you're thinking, oh no, this is taking so long and it's drawn out, I hate it. Use that time and think, well, what's going to happen when I'm out of debt? What am I going to invest in? How much money am I going to build up over time using compound interest? How is my life going to be amazing when I retire? Let's start planning for retirement. What do we want to do in retirement? Let's start thinking about it. Use your time like that. Trust me, your baby step 2 will go a lot faster. Anyway, moving on. That's baby step 4. Moving on. Baby step 5, as I said, I don't have kids. Moving on. Baby step 6, pay off your mortgage early. Now, that's something that is a good idea, isn't it? The average mortgage in the UK is 25 years. Not sure what it is in the United States, but your mortgage is arguably your largest bill per month. Imagine paying it off early. Imagine if instead of paying it off in 25 years, you paid it off in 10. You could get a second job or you could cut back on things. Imagine paying it off in 10. Then you've got all of that money that you're paying off on your mortgage back to yourself. What could you do with it? Could you put it into investments? Could you save it and have a lovely holiday every year or 3? World's your oyster. By having that mortgage debt gone, no one can take your home away from you ever again. Nobody can have those financial, pressures on you ever again. That stress you've been feeling for years, that horrible, horrible stress that gets down here about being in debt is gone forever. You will be the most content and serene and happy probably you've been in a long time. And join me, that's where I want to be. Let's do it. Finally, there are all sorts of tricks I think you can do to pay off your mortgage early. You can renegotiate your mortgage, can't you? I think there are times when, they say the average person buying a house, if they is it remortgaged or is it switching mortgages? I don't really know a lot about it, but I know if you do it at least 2 or 3 times, you can bring those payments down, because you can bring perhaps the interest payments down. There are little tricks you can do you can speak to your mortgage lender or go to another mortgage lender and see what they can do to help. And I know people who've switched and they've told me they've knocked 5 years off or more off their mortgage by doing that. Fantastic. Maybe you're on an interest only and you want to start repaying it back faster. Now's the time. Even if it's 15 years instead of 25. Imagine being 50 and being totally debt-free. That means you can parlay more into retirement savings. Imagine retiring as a millionaire. Kick back, let's do it. Kick back on the beach. Let's retire as millionaires. Let's be going first class on holidays every year. Let's, all those hobbies that we want to indulge in whilst we're working, let's go and do it. And look at all those other people and see the people that are still in debt or they're still trying to make payments on their house when they've retired, and just think, oh, how can you help them? And you think, wow, could I tell them things that would help them? You know, could I support them? Which leads us on nicely to baby step 7. Build wealth and give. What an awesome baby step to finish on. You know, are you in a position? Have you followed the baby steps and now you're a multi-millionaire and you can afford to impart help onto other people? Now, help doesn't always necessarily mean financial. It could be. Perhaps you could help someone out. Or it could be the benefit of your advice, you know, the benefit of your time. Could you help them to run a club or run something? You know, could you be an advisor to people? Could you go out and talk to people about your journey, your debt journey, and how you've become a millionaire and help them? Could you donate money for scholarships and other people's education? Could you, you know, help out the homeless? Or you could do so many things. You know, if you're secure and you're comfortable financially and mentally, you could do so many things to help other people. And I think it's a perfect place to end on, because it's wonderful, isn't it? And it's like, build wealth and give. Arguably, it's the most fun of all the baby steps. So let's do it. Join me on the baby steps. Anyway, I appreciate it's a weird scenario. It's a weird format, walking and talking. But hey, you know, if you like my video, give it a thumbs up. If you like what I'm doing, hit the subscribe button. It means loads to me. I'm just starting up my channel and I'm hoping it will grow well to the point where, you know, I'd love to do this as a full-time gig, but obviously I'm way away from that. But, you know, but yeah, any ideas on, I love talking about anything. You know, give me a subject, hit me up in the comments, give me a subject, give me something to talk about. I'll talk all day long. And if you like listening, great. If you don't, best of luck on your YouTube journeys. See you later.